Hi, everyone. It's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. I am thrilled and delighted to introduce you to two of the artists who have artwork in our Resilient Art Show. And our art show is part of the Caring Conference, which took place April 9th and 10th. And our art show is open, so you can stop by when it's convenient for you to see the different artwork that's available, including artwork from Chris. Hi, Chris. Thanks for being here.
Hi.
And from Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi, thanks for having me, Denise.
So I love that you guys submitted artwork. So tell me how you use art when it feels like a day or a situation or a circumstance really presents challenges, and that just being attached to the art helps you with resilience. So Chris, let's start with you.
If I'm having a rough day, I'll go out to my studio, or I'll grab the camera and go out to a park. If I'm in the studio, I'll put some music on, and I will just start literally slathering paint on a canvas. I get very energetic with it. You look on the wall in that studio and you can tell that I sling some paint. And I guess the physicality of doing that and is a bit of a stress reliever, but then all that stuff that just gets rolled up inside my head I'm able to get it out onto the canvas where I can physically work with it. And if I can't get in the studio, if I'm out in the park, I'm out walking, there's that physical exercise that helps get those endorphins flowing. And I'm still able to take the camera and do, make art. And, it might not be, I don't always choose subjects that are the traditional pretty things. Last time I was out, I took pictures of roots just because it was what I felt I needed to do. And I don't know if I was trying to get to the root of the problem or what, but there, I was out there, I saw roots that were just gnarled and going in and around on each other. And it grabbed my attention and my imagination. And I lost myself to it. I was out there for 4 hours. I filled up a 64 gig memory card with photographs. And the only reason I came back in was I realized, oh, hey, it's getting dark. So I think I put probably 16,000 steps on my Fitbit that day.
Wow.
And that it's just an amazing feeling. The only way I can say it is that I lost myself to it. And I came home, I was in a fantastic mood. I was whistling, did all my chores, put everything away. I even sat down and started editing photographs, I love taking photographs. I love making digital art. I cannot stand editing photographs. So if I actually sit down to do it, I'm in a good mood. And that's kind of my process is.
So you know what you found when you were shooting photographs of the roots? You found your flow. And Kathy Murray, who's one of our certified caregiving consultants, actually did a whole session around flow during our caring conference on Saturday, I believe it was, or maybe it was Friday. Anyway, what's interesting is this idea of flow is that you just get lost in it. You are focused exactly in on that activity and nothing else matters. And that's the release, right? We get so caught up in our worries, but to take a break from our worries, truly taking a break is amazing.
I'll do the same thing when I'm painting. I
Yeah,
just get caught up in the music and the paint, and I'll look out the window and I'll be like, where'd the sun go?
that's the beauty of art. Emily, you also are someone who enjoys nature as an inspiration for art. So tell us a little bit about how you find art in nature.
Yes, definitely. Nature is a big part of the photos that I like to take. And for me personally, I think even coming to an identity, like an artist identity, is still a process. So I'm not a professional artist. And I think even identifying, I think it's like similar with writer. I think it's like those are terms that I'm working towards and sort of continuously sort of trying on and getting to a place where I feel like I can say like I'm an artist or I'm a writer. And so to anyone else who's out there who feels like I'm not really an artist or I'm just doing this thing, it's okay. You know, and it's okay to create art and to not feel like, you know, like I don't have any training or background in photography, but I love taking photos and I love being outside. And so it's okay to start small and to start anywhere. And so for me, taking pictures of really in my backyard. So I'm a family caregiver, and especially during COVID, I haven't been leaving my house, but I have a beautiful backyard that we share with my parents. And I love taking photos of my mom's flowers in her garden and the eucalyptus trees and oak trees around the house. And there's a lot of birds that nest in the area and that fly around, especially this time of year. And so um, I like taking photos of hawks, and there was a great blue heron that was in our yard a few times this past week. So I got some really incredible photos of this huge great blue heron that was standing in the yard. And so um, it can be pretty spontaneous, kind of just in the moment. But I think that when I'm having a hard day, I definitely seek outside time and going outside, especially if the sun is out. I try to spend some time outdoors, and um, photography is something that just kind of, you know, comes naturally while I'm out there. So it's not necessarily something that I schedule on my calendar, but when I'm outside, I like to walk around and look at things, and it helps me to I like to look back at them and cherish those memories. But I also like to print the pictures out, and I have some of them up on the wall in front of me and around, and like little pictures that I like to look at. I like looking at the flowers and ladybugs and hawks and rainbows and that green, the green. Different authors have talked about forest bathing, so that green nature can really bring healing, similar to blue mind and being near water. So all of those elements of nature, and I love the interconnectedness of it. I've actually, Chris, I've been reading and watching and learning more about roots and fungi or fungi and how they the interrelationships between nature and how incredible all of this is and what's happening underneath the dirt, you know, and there's like these entire worlds. So I just love reading about it. I love, you know, taking photos and just sort of thinking about nature. And then I put the photos, some of my favorites, into a digital frame that I really love. And so I have a digital frame on one of my altars. As Denise knows, I love making altars around our studio with crystals and flowers and rocks and shells and things like that. And I have a digital frame on the altar that cycles through some of the photos that I take, and also some photos that friends send to me of the ocean, of different creatures and animals, of nature. And so that just brings me a lot of healing and a lot of joy. And I like to see them throughout the day. So they can live in my phone or they can be printed out, but I love to have this rotating frame of photos. And it just makes me feel really happy. And then the last thing I'll just add is I also like to make jewelry, and I really get in the flow state doing that. So like these are a pair of earrings that I made. And that's something that I used to do years ago and I hadn't done for a long time and had been wanting to get back to. And so in the last couple of months, I have gotten back to that a little bit. I do want to do more, but I did complete a pair of earrings. So
That's awesome. You know, something that strikes me that both of you said is that you just go outside and there's inspiration for your art. That you don't have to try to set up something or find the perfect light, that whatever you see can inspire your art. Chris, we were talking before we started recording our conversation that you also have to rely on resilience to stay inspired as an artist, though. So you were talking about how you were in front of a canvas and it remained blank. And you were thinking, I don't know what to do with this blank canvas. So how do you stay inspired even when there's a block?
That is very difficult for me. When I realized I'd been sitting there for half an hour and just looking at this stupid canvas, I was like, put some paint on it. So I didn't know, I was like, what color? All of it. So I got on my palette, I put paint, put out all my colors, and then just started putting stuff on there. I actually went back in there this morning to check on it, and I realized, hey, that's a really interesting abstract you've got going on there. So even though in the moment I hated it, just walking away and doing something else for a day, coming back with fresh eyes, sometimes that helps. That was Saturday. Yesterday, I was like, I gotta do some art. I don't know what to do. So I grabbed the dog and I went out on the canal and I walked and I walked and I walked. I got soaking wet. It was great. I came back, the endorphins were flowing. And so I looked at the garage and I was like, no, it's not time to do painting right now. So I came inside and did some digital work, and it turned out good. Not my best work, but it was something. And it just, I don't want to say power through the block, but I've been doing some research for another class, and that whole idea of just do something is basically what they're saying. It doesn't have to be good. You don't have to like it. Just put paint on a canvas, take some pictures, do some digital work. It doesn't have to be, the next Picasso or something. Just do something. And that starts getting the ball rolling. And eventually that ball starts rolling fast enough, hits that block, and just smashes it to smithereens like it did this morning.
I'm a writer, and so I always remind myself that the art of writing is rewriting, which then just gets me to writing. So if there's a block, I just start.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that you just have to start, and you commit to as long as you can, put it away, revisit it, and then start rewriting it. What happens, I think, is that when you revisit it, you think, oh gosh, this is better than I thought. Because when you are creating it, it really does feel like you're just creating it. It's just like, oh, but when you look back, you think, okay, there's something here. There's something useful for me. Emily, I can see you nodding your head. So tell me what's resonating to you about this idea of just do it.
With the writing, I've noticed that too, of things that I wrote years ago in the past for school, and I was really hard on myself at the time about, and then looking back years later and reading it, I'm like, oh wow, I wrote that. And like it wasn't really, it actually wasn't that bad. And like thinking the way our perspective can change, and how you can be so critical of your own worst critic in the moment, but sometimes looking back is like, oh wow. And then also, as you said about being open to that rewriting and just getting started, because sometimes getting started with writing can be the hardest part, but being open to allowing to also to let things go. So like I have a document, I know I'm kind of moving towards writing, but a document of a cutting room floor where I can just sort of put things that I want to delete from what I'm writing, but that I can't quite let go of just because I put time into writing them, and so I feel better if I can just dump them into a document that I call the cutting room floor, and and then I can keep on working on the thing that I'm working on without losing that. I think also just trying to change the energy of the room. So I'll do that like with like lighting candles or incense, or open a window or the door and get some fresh air flowing through. Like there's a certain tea that I like to drink when I write. So creating kind of these small rituals, but it definitely still can be very hard. I think with jewelry making, with the beads, I try to stop overthinking and to listen, and to try to listen to the beads and try to see like which ones are really calling out to me right now, and working with those, and trying to use my intuition, I think, rather than overly use my brain to think about it, and just try to get into that flow state. Definitely. And then when I'm outside, it just sort of comes naturally. I don't really think about it a whole lot in terms of trying to find something. I just, as you said, I mean, it could be anything from like a little, flower that's part of a weed, even like growing out of the dirt, or it can be also really expansive views. I think the expansiveness of the sky sometimes can feel really healing. So being outside and being able to see a horizon, or to be able to see a view that's far away, it helps to just feel that expansiveness and that spaciousness. So I really enjoy that too.
So something that struck me, Emily, about what you were talking about is that you're really focusing on creating rather than controlling.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's this letting go, that it's not about having something that's perfect. It's about having something that has the opportunity to be beautiful, and that you open it up to whatever the beauty is that comes out. I have been doing virtual art shows for several years, and every time I put a call out for artists, I always try to be as inclusive in the definition of art as possible, because oftentimes people will opt out as believing that they're an artist. So Emily, you talked about that earlier, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because
Your inclusive definition really, it helped me to say, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna send in a photo. Denise said photos count, so I'm gonna send one in.
Yes, right. Because I think we feel like someone has to designate us as an artist before we can call ourselves an artist. And what if we just called ourselves an artist because of the photos that we take, the meals that we prepare, the cakes that we decorate, the jewelry that we make, the photos that we make? We are really creating art every day. I think it's just that we haven't given ourselves permission to call it art. So go ahead, Chris. I was going to throw it to you and ask you, how do you define art?
Yeah, I don't think art is confined to a photograph or a painting. Writing is just as much of an art as paint, as putting paint on a canvas, or there's you're using the same part of your brain to create. So if you're making earrings, or you're making little statues with Play-Doh and then putting it in the oven and painting them. I have a friend that does that. It's not Play-Doh. I can't remember what the name of the stuff is, but that's an art. That's art. Art is something, art can be a performance. I think I tend to think of art in very broad strokes. A lot of what I consider art, my family is like, that's art. And I'm like, yeah, that's art.
Yes, I love to be expansive in the thought. I have been watching TikTok, and there is one of the creators on TikTok, he makes fairy villages, I think he calls them. And he goes out into a public area. We call them forest preserves here in Illinois, but a forest. And he'll actually carve out an area, and then he'll start making little houses. So he made a village that had a post office with a little postal car. He made a farm and he made the farm animals. And now he's making another village for a day program, for the residents of a day program. And he's actually creating what they love about life within this village. And so when he goes out to create something, it's amazing what he does. And he often uses just little pieces of nature that he just minimizes, so to speak. That's an amazing art. And I think we all have that power to create something amazing. We just tell ourselves, oh no, we're not good enough, or we didn't take a class, or we didn't graduate from college with a degree, but we're all artists, definitely.
You don't have to go to some big fancy college and study the greats to be considered an artist. You know, if you're making stuff, if you're doing stuff that makes you happy, you're an artist, you know?
I love that definition. That's what it's all about, right? If it brings you a happiness, it's art. It's art. So Emily, tell us what your art has meant to you.
I love that definition. It makes you happy, it's art. And I feel like so many people that I know and love that are in my life that are, you know, my friends are, a lot of people are feeling called right now, I think lately, to make art. Like so many people that I know have been just like feeling this urge to create in different ways, which I also find really interesting. And so I think there's sort of, I don't know if it's on everyone, but there's sort of this collective sort of desire to create more and to start creating, and not for the sake of like selling it online, but just for the sake of, you know, ourselves, and just to create and to let go of, you know, striving for perfection and just to make something. And so for me, it's really, it's meant a lot to me in my, I guess in my healing journey, becoming a caregiver, and since my husband's injury about 3.5 years ago. And so it's just been it was a really traumatic experience. And it's been a long journey, and has been, you know, can be really isolating, and especially during COVID. But I think, art, I mean, even starting in the hospital, I was creating altars in the hospital on this windowsills, and that really brought me a lot of joy. And using rocks and candles, and I guess kind of curating these spaces, or these tabletop spaces, that made me feel more calm and reassured and connected, and that just really mean a lot to me in my spiritual practice as well as my artistic practice. And I really appreciate this opportunity and the expansive definition and the inclusive definition and your intention, Denise, because I definitely felt that, and that is what kind of gave me enough confidence to send something in, because that artist identity and writer identity are definitely things that I still struggle with, and continuing to take those on and to really feel them. And so let's see. Oh, I also wanted to share, I have a close friend, Jewel. Yesterday was her birthday, so happy birthday, Jewel. And when I asked her what she was doing and what she was up to, she was making art. So she was like coloring and making art and doing different things, and just spending time on her birthday with herself working on that art. And so she sent me pictures of the art that she was working on. And then I have another friend who, the adult couple, they have 2 children, and they sent a postcard, a family postcard out to all of their friends. And the cover of the postcard was designed by the 2 kids. And one of them does like drawing and art with colored pencils, and the other one does digital art. And they combined the digital art and the drawing art into this one really cool postcard, and then sent it out to all of their friends as like around Valentine's Day. And so I thought that was a really cool thing to do too, is you know, utilizing the kids' art to turn it into this really awesome postcard, and like sending it out to everyone, you know. And so I think the more that we can continue to share our art with our loved ones, even if it's texting a picture that we take to a friend, and, you know, wishing them a great day or something like that, but for me, it's something that I will continue to practice and continue to work on. And I hope if you have future art shows, Denise, I'll continue to submit things and continue to practice taking on this artist identity. And it's something that brings me a lot of joy and peace and fulfillment.
You know, the other word that I've really been taken with is creator because of TikTok. So we can be artists and creators.
Mhm.
And I think both just really allow us to be free with expression, expressing ourselves in the way that brings happiness, as Chris said. So you can see Emily's and Chris's pieces in our art show at caringourway.com. And I also want to give Chris and Emily an opportunity to share your website address. So if any of our viewers would like to learn more about your art, how can they reach out to you? Chris, what's your website address?
www.christophersalento.com.
Okay, and I'll include that email, website address in the description of our video. Emily?
And mine is emeraldwellness.org. And my email is emily@emeraldwellness.org.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Emily. Great to connect with both of you.
Thanks so much, Denise. Nice to meet you, Chris.
Thanks for having me. Likewise.
Thanks everybody so much for watching. Be sure to stop by
Thank you.
caringourway.com. Bye-bye.
Bye.